I'm going to attempt showing you how to find the key of a song, but this is more from the theory and more advanced users. To some extent, it assumes you can already find the key of a song, but what happens next? What happens beyond that? In a simplest way, let's look at. I've got some a video on YouTube which I will now play for you here. So I have the song. So now I'm going to just play this, and I'm not sure if the audio comes. I have a keyboard with me. Okay, that was a movie extract, so we don't need that. But what I'm trying to get at is now I found that that song, what we heard on that, there was no music on that, happened to be in the key of F. I had a keyboard with me, and I'm not sure whether you could hear the song or maybe you saw what they were doing. Uh, I'm not sure if I'm able to capture that, but we have to go beyond that. So you can listen to a song, and with your keyboard, guitar, whatever instrument, you can feel around the 12 odd notes, come up with the key, and I've arrived at the fact that that song was in F. So this is what I had done by ear. So now let's go a little bit beyond that. I'm assuming that given with a guitar or a keyboard, you would be able to find the key of any song if you listen to it. What happens uh, going beyond that? So let's look at. So I'm going through the Music International subscription, which we have. We have a lot of information here and on different instruments. So one link here is how to find the key of a song. So I'm going to use that. So finding the key of a song. So MD16. So now, as I had said, it's easier said than done. It is an essential skill in playing music by ear. It's mandatory. If you were learning to read music, you probably don't even know which key you are in, but you can play music. But when you're playing with others or playing by ear, it is essential that you're able to identify the key. So the identifying, what do you mean by the key? The sense of home, the bass, the root in which a song is playing is an important aspect to playing by ear. So um, being able to pick up a tune and then copy that in the exact pitch on your instrument, even vocal. If someone's singing, are you singing in the same key? When you sing, you're not aware of what's the key is, but when you're playing an instrument, you have to have a little bit more information. So, what's the further information that you need? So now some people just get it. Others may take days, hours. If you want help, I can help you with this separately. We'll have some master classes with you. You can get online and get in touch with me, and I'll help you with that. But let's see what happens beyond your thing. So beyond what we are talking about now. So what is the key? Identifying the key. Is your instrument in tune? So you have to make sure that the instrument is in tune. You have to know what the ending note or starting note is to find the home key. Essentially, and most often, the note in which the song ends, the last note, is the key of the song. But the starting note can be anything. It's typically the first, third, and fifth. If you don't understand what that is, you can check that out separately. But in a scale, if you're in the key of C, it would be C, E, or G as a starting note. So if you know that it starts, you have to get the sharps and flats. You have to understand a little bit more about the key itself to uh, be able to do anything further with this. So it's one of 12 possible keys. You have to also determine whether the song is in a major or a minor. That's an important early aspect of ear training. So essentially, any of us would do a little bit of trial and error unless you have perfect pitch and you are able to identify what the ending note is. So if you're able to identify the last note of that song, even as it's sung, that would more often than not be the key to the song. Now, let's say in this song it had ended up with F, which I did. In the song that I had, if you were trying it out, it would have ended in F and everything would relate to the key of F. But for the purpose of this exercise and this discussion, let's assume that the I'm going to talk about things in the key of D for a variety of reasons because that's what I have on the screen right now. I'll explain that to you shortly. So once you've done the starting note identification and the end note, you should be able to, you have to know the key of the song. So if I'm going to now move shift from F to D just because I have that on the screen. So let's assume that the song was on D and the song ended in the note of D. So then the starting notes, the first, third, and fifth would have been D, F sharp, and A in the key of A. So the song would have started either with D, an F sharp, or an A. So it could have started with any of those. Each song would be different, and it could start with one of those three and end on the D. So that's typically what happens. Now, around the D, you'd have to know quite a bit. So these are different aspects of the D that you would have to know. Some of you might recognize it as being a two sharp major, so that's the key of D. You may know that the relative minor of D is B minor, a tonic minor is D minor for that. The three chords in each of these are the first, the fourth, and the dominant seventh. So the fourth, fifth. So in the key of D, it would be D, G, and A or A7. So the chords you would play is the D, the F, I'm sorry, the D, the G, and the A7. So that is the first, the fourth, and the fifth, seventh, which are the chords in the key of D. Then any of the eight chords, you could play any of the eight chords. I'll just come to, so the three chords which you would use is the D, G, and A7. But if you wanted other chords that are likely to come up, it's interesting to see that you could use any of the eight chords and they would not be accidentals. So that's why we use these Roman letters for describing that. So while I describe the first as being D, the fourth as being the G, and the fifth dominant being the A7. Now, a 2 minor means next to D, what is D? Is up the alphabets, E minor. So E minor could quite often be in one of the accidentals, or not accidental, but the one of the chords in the key of D. So E minor is a possibility. And you may come across F sharp minor, which is the next one. So E minor, F sharp minor is the third minor which comes up, and you could use that. After the A7, B minor is the relative minor. So that's the sixth Roman small letter 6, B minor. Let's not get into the seventh or the B flat. It's a flattened 5. There's a reason why that is theoretically there. But typically for the leading note or the seventh note, you would go back to using the dominant 7, which is the A7 chord in most cases. So you can manage most songs with three chords. Other chords that may get introduced is one of these. So this is some of the aspects of the song being played in D. So you would have to know some of this or all of this before you start playing a little bit more complicated song. So, so let's look at some of the further methods that you could use to help you identify the thing. Of course, we had sheet music for the song. You can try that out. You can go online and see what key is it. You could look at other ways. Chords and lyrics websites might help you find that that song happened to be in D. You may be able to just Google it. Most versions of the song is likely to be in the same key. For example, if you look at Girl from Ipanema, we always talk about it being in F, and quite often, I mean, most of the music played or sheet music would be in F, unless you're doing something in South America. The same song might be in D flat most of the time. So it's interesting that some songs will always be in that particular key. Um, for anyone who's trying to find the key, it is a guess, an educated guess to start with, but you quickly pick that up. And the earlier you can do that, as the song starts, you'll be able to accompany. Let's say you were in a party and somebody started singing, you would have to be able to pick up the key and then accompany them, whether on the piano or the guitar, or especially if they don't pick up the notes when you give them the chord. So once you find the pitch, then you would have to know all these different things that we've been discussing, and it does get complicated as you go forward. But the first level is to know some of these basics, the theory behind each of these basics. Uh, Yep. So these are some of the things. And when we talk about C, now another example I'm giving you is in the key of C. The song that we tried out was happened to be in the key of F to start with. Then we looked at the theory around D. Now, when you look at the key of C, which is the simplest, which are no sharps and flats in the key of C, that means when you do a do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, the key of C can have different aspects. The note C is very different from the scale of C, is very different from the intervals, the melodic intervals around C. There could be harmonic intervals around C. Then there are chords in the key of C. So the chords in the key of C would be the C, the F, and the G, G7, as we saw. I'll go back and look at the D, and you'll understand what that is, the fourth and the fifth. The notes in the chords. So each of the chords would have different notes. The C chord would have a C, E, and G. The G chord would have a G, B, and D. And the F chord would have an F, A, and C. And if you were a G7th, then the G chord would have a G, B, D, and an F natural in it. So those would be the notes in the chord. Notes in the arpeggio is what we. So the difference between a chord and an arpeggio is a broken chord. So a chord is where you play all the three notes together, whereas in an arpeggio you are playing the notes one after the other. So when you play one after the other, then if you play a C, a E, and a G one after the other, like I do, now I'm playing arpeggios, and if I play them together, that's a C chord, F chord, C chord. Likewise, the intervals. When you play only two notes at a time, it's called, when you play them together, it's called a harmonic interval. So if I play C and E, I'm playing harmonic intervals. C and one other note. I was playing harmonic intervals. Now, if I was to play melodic intervals, I play C and one other note, one after the other. So if I play one note after the other, it's a melodic interval. So these are some of the aspects that you'd have to understand in uh, a key. So just to recap, so you may have picked up that song which you originally played, and I'll go back and play that uh, for you and say, let's look at that again and say,